I was recently asked why the UAW chose General Motors when you've got Ford, Chrysler, and GM, all three with contracts that expire on the same date. Well, they're continuing to negotiate with Ford and Chrysler. That's kind of background news because General Motors now, the UAW has struck them in 2019, and 48 to 49,000 members are on the street. They struck every American General Motors facility. Now, collectively, Ford, Chrysler, and GM, about 150,000 employees, UAW represented folks, at those facilities. GM was the target strike based on the fact that they're closing the most facilities right now, they're reducing the headcount the most, and they're making the most money. So setting a standard in pattern bargaining with the toughest of the three was the reason for choosing General Motors. So let's understand pattern bargaining. The idea of pattern bargaining was a vision from Walter Reuther, one of the first presidents of the United Auto Workers, so that he could set that standard through one industry and hope that it permeated through all other industries that they represented. That's called pattern bargaining. By taking a strong, incremental, building block approach, we are able to get sustainable results throughout the life of the agreement and make sure that the benefits are received by the members. And this approach has proven to be very successful over the last 60 years, which is why we use it today in the UAW, especially in the automotive sector. So let's understand how the UAW works, and it's like Teamsters as an example. They have a strike against Republic Services in the Boston area that's about 15 days older than the strike right now that General Motors and the UAW are going through. It didn't involve Teamsters in Missouri or Tennessee, it involved Teamsters in Boston. Although they're there in solidarity, they didn't just go industry-wide, they went to that one section. Here, we have a section in the UAW, the automotive section. There's aerospace, agricultural implement workers, nurses, a number of other areas that are represented by the UAW. Specifically in the automotive sector, we pattern bargain. That pattern bargaining was set over 60 years ago as a bargaining strategy to get collectively together to force the industry so that one doesn't outdo the other. Say Ford is offering a better deal financially than they are for General Motors. This way we set a pattern so that they all are the same. That kind of answers the question, but then it still leaves more questions, which is totally understandable. If it's not something you do every day, you don't think about this stuff. But I also have more information that is available for listeners if they're interested. I do a podcast, and I also have a website called mylaborradio.org. There's an interesting interview I did with one of our members on second shift, as she talked about how this strike has affected her, how she even got here. It's quite an interesting conversation. But prior to that, in my most recent show, dated 10/9/2019, I talk about how our issues, the things that we want at the bargaining table, get to the lead bargainers that are there right now bargaining with General Motors, the resolution process and how that works. If you go to the half-hour mark of this most recent edition of My Labor Radio, which could be found where you find your Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast, or just go to mylaborradio.org and find out more information about why we do the things we do and how the process happens.